is scary. A lot of moms kind of are very hard on themselves. Just women sharing their stories actually literally changed and saved lives. Welcome to Woman Power. I'm your host Lorna Greyling, and today we're going to be talking to Fabineen Saayman. She's an accountant of profession, but recently found her creative side. She is now a fierce friend, a connector, a businesswoman, and most of all, the co-founder of the Women's Collaborative. Joining us all the way from Tennessee, welcome Fabineen, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting.
The Women's Collaborative. Tell me, what is this movement all about?
So we started this about 6 months ago in my community. I live in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and I really just wanted something where I could be around other fierce, powerful women and create a community for us to all connect and share and be brave together.
Did you move to Tennessee and you kind of knew no one in your area? Is that why this movement started?
Yeah, so I've been in the US for about 7 years. I moved from South Africa to Nashville, and me and my family moved to Hendersonville about a year and a half ago. And it was during the pandemic, and we all, know how hard it was to go outside and make connections. So as soon as it was safe to kind of be around other people, I started going to Mom's Night Out. And I didn't really know anyone in the area. So I started talking to the other moms that was there. And I just shared my dream and hope to create something where I can support other women and we can all come together and share and not be as lonely as we are. And I always tell people it's so hard to make friends as an adult. I see my 3-year-old and she just runs out on the playground and she just starts talking to someone, and it's so intimidating to do as an adult, especially as a woman. And I also talk to women and they say that it's so intimidating to walk into a room of women sometimes, to feel that you have that confidence to know that they will accept you.
I know that you guys come together regularly in all kinds of different ways and that you discuss various topics, but one of the subjects that is so close to my heart is parenthood and how incredibly hard it is to be a mom. Is this something that you guys can relate to? And how do you inspire women in terms of motherhood?
Yeah, one of the things that I realized when I became a mom, and I have a 3-year-old, is just how lonely the postpartum period is specifically, and how there's so much doubt and shame and guilt in motherhood that I just didn't feel I had a community or a village, as people always say, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
It's so hard, especially being an immigrant. All my family is back in South Africa, so it's especially hard for me, but even the people that are around me that are from here, they say the same thing. And I was like, why are we all alone and lonely separately? Why can't we come together if we all feel that way? And so we have Mom's Night Out. And it sounds like we go out and party, and we do that because we like to have fun. But we spend about an hour at least or so kind of just sitting around and sharing. There's a lot of times where women just come and they listen, and they come again, and then maybe the third time they come, they're like, oh, I've been loving these gatherings and I've never felt that I could share, but today I really wanted to share. And it's just it's led by one of our co-founders. She's a life coach, and what I love about it is it's just a place for you to kind of leave the kids at home and feel like it's time for you. It's so rare that we have time for ourselves, especially as moms, and you're always someone else's something. You're someone's mom, you're someone's sister, you're someone's daughter, you're someone's wife. And that we want to create a space where moms can come together and share their experiences and hear others say, I felt that too, or I'm going through that too, or I can see you and I appreciate you for what you're doing.
I think personally for me, I am so passionate about moms being open and vulnerable and creating that safe space for them to come and listen, because like you said, I mean, we all, became mothers in a way, and for me, my first pregnancy and my first child, I had my entire family around me, and still for me it was a strange time. I didn't expect half the stuff that happened to me. It was nothing that was portrayed in any magazine. Everything on television and in the magazines looked so picture perfect. And I mean, I broke out in zits everywhere. My body exploded into ways I never thought was going to shrink back again. Breastfeeding for the first time was horrifying for me. I don't know, it was actually quite traumatic, having my first child. And I think that, having a group of women where you can be open and raw and just talk about these things and say, all right, yes, I felt like this, you felt like that, and let's compare and say, well, maybe you're not so strange. And yeah, it's so powerful. So what are the kind of stories that you guys are listening to and feelings that moms are sharing in these groups?
One of the things that I found was amazing is we had one session, and we call it groups. It's like group therapy, but it's nothing as formal. It's just the energy that is being created when a group of women that has similar goals and similar just where they are in their lives and can share is just so amazing. You walk out of there and you are in a high. It's amazing, just the experience that you walk away from. And we had a really, really kind of passionate conversation at one of our sessions, and everyone was in tears, of course. But we all talked about our various different postpartum experiences, like you were saying, like women going through, experiencing the differences in how they actually had their babies, right? So what you thought it was going to be there, like even your first or your second, in your second you think it's going to be this, you know what you're doing, and then everything is different than what you expected. And we talked about the lack of resources for women, especially after you especially after you have your baby. Like, I think a lot of times you feel like, oh, you go to the doctor, you go to your OBGYN or your midwife almost every month, at the end, almost weekly. And then you have your baby, and then nothing for like 6 weeks, right? Then they're like, bye, see ya. And you're like, I need, there's so much that you need, and you are so lonely because you are either afraid, because a lot of women had their babies during COVID, and those experiences were just heartbreaking, because some of them couldn't even have their husbands in there with them to have their baby, or postpartum they couldn't go to a lactation consultant to help with breastfeeding. It's just like the stories that these women were sharing is like, I'm so happy that I wasn't alone. We were all of our own, but we experienced something together. And one thing that came out of that was one of the moms that was there, she is actually an adoptive mom. And she was like, I didn't know if I could come to this or if I would feel welcome, because I didn't carry my baby. I didn't give birth like the rest of you. But I feel like I am so welcomed in the space, because no matter how your motherhood journey comes in or how it comes about, you are a mother regardless of who carried that baby. And it was just I just felt so proud of this group that we were able to create for everyone to feel welcome. And there's just so many different ways that we can support each other. And started to talk to her about like her journey, because they're trying to adopt a second. And this group is such a group that's growing, and we are meeting the needs of our community.
Yeah, I think it is so extremely special when you do have a group of women that, like you say, can come together and just share stories. I believe there is such power in sharing stories. I think, it's healing. And I've heard of many instances where just women sharing their stories actually literally changed and saved lives. I feel that there's a big lack in especially the resources and the support for the first couple of weeks of being a mom. It's so true. I mean, you get all the support and medical service and everybody's around you and like, oh, the stomach is growing, and then you have the baby and like you say, you're home with this little baby, and that is scary. And what I've seen, and I'm not sure if you guys have this in your group as well, but a lot of moms kind of are very hard on themselves, especially with things like breastfeeding. And as you were mentioning, they have this picture of childbirth, and now it didn't work out that way. Would you say that this is topics that come up regularly, and how do you guys discuss around it, and what solutions have you found for it?
I 100% agree. I think there's like, I was just thinking about like when I had my one and only child, and I think back to that Fabby that was 3 a.m. with a 5-day old, and I didn't have any milk supply, and I was so defeated. I felt like I didn't I just birthed a child, and I made her, and I should be so proud, and it should be the most empowering moment of my life. But I felt so inadequate, because the picture in my mind of like, you have to breastfeed because breast is best, you have to, like, all these things that people like put in your mind and that you put on yourself, and it's so much pressure that I put on myself. I just want to go give that Fabi a hug, because I feel so, I like just a love and compassion that I didn't have for myself. And the moment that I realized that she will be fine. She will be fine if she breastfeeds. She'll be fine if she drinks formula. As long as she's happy, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that's not the message we're getting. The message we're getting is, you have to breastfeed, or you have to do this, or you have to do that, or this is what it's supposed to look like. And if you don't connect with your baby immediately, then there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
And or postpartum depression is a thing. We need to talk about these things. And I wished for that for like months after giving birth. I was mad. I was very mad at my friends, at my family, at society, at the media, because no one told me. No one gave me a really, like, no one warned me, I guess, of how hard it will be. I think the expectation, what people put out there when you look on Instagram, and we talk about this a lot, about the image other women put out there, other moms put out there of their lives on Instagram, and you sit there and you scroll and you compare your messy life with their perfect Instagram life, which is not real. And we try and kind of keep bringing that up because it's not real. Let's be real with each other. Let's share what the not real part is.
Yeah.
So we wiped off our tears and we said, okay, what are we going to do so that the next mom or the next young person does not go through this, right? So we were like, we need to be that change. We need to talk to our kids, our friends that don't have kids yet. Let's have honest conversations, not to scare them, but to prepare them better.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was pregnant, I went to my gynecologist and I asked him, all right, so I'm pregnant. This is my first pregnancy. I'm quite young. I think I was 23 at the time. And I said, so what do I do? Must I do anything different, or can you give me some advice? And he said, well, you're not sick. So, there's nothing wrong with you. And that was his advice. And then next visit, I'm like, well, is there anything I can study or, go and look at? I mean, this is 20 years ago. And he gave me a thick book. He said, well, buy this book. It's called What to Expect When You're Expecting. It's this thick book. I hate reading. I never bought it. I never read it. And I was so shocked and I would say traumatized when my child was born.
Yeah, I personally feel like I'm not diagnosed because that is an actual, but I think everything that I went through, when we were talking, I was like, I haven't been able to look at pictures. I haven't been able to think of postpartum or just pregnancy, not necessarily pregnancy, but childbirth as well as postpartum. It's like a block in my mind. And, I think therapy is so important. So I'm actually going to start, going to one of the women that I met through our group, and she's a family therapist. And I was like, we need to work through this. Like, there's so much that's there that you don't realize is still impacting your current day. And we all said, like, it's like you went through the trauma, you have PTSD, and we just kind of as expected to just like move on and just like keep going. And one of the things that I am like, that I'm working through is not having another child, right? I live in the South, and a lot of people in the South have multiple kids, and they're like very surprised when we say that we're only going to have one child, even family members. And that was something that we as a family had to kind of work through and still work through, and make that decision as to we're only going to have one child. And it's something that's so small, but like there's so many things that women have to deal with, and that we don't have the resources to just even have a space to like work through that. You know what I mean? So
and also not to feel bad about how you're feeling, because just realizing that you could have some post-traumatic stress from childbirth, from having a child, right, is phenomenal. That is so empowering, and that is a mind-blowing realization to have, and it's so healing. Like, now you can understand that, you can voice it, other women can hear it and say, wow, there's another woman feeling the way I'm feeling, right? And meanwhile, all these women would have sat at home feeling bad about the fact that they feel traumatized by having a child, because it's supposed to be this blessing, right? Like you were saying, I mean, Instagram, picture perfect. In the magazines, you only see the pictures where the baby is googling and laughing and the mother looks perfect and their hair is all done. But that's not the truth. That's not the reality of it. And wow, how powerful for you guys to stand up and say, like, these are the real feelings and this is how we can deal with them. And I'm so blessed by the fact that you are saying that now you're gonna go and see someone in your group, that can help you through these steps. And again, now once you've done that, you can empower more women. Just wonderful, right? It's wonderful. I know we were chatting yesterday and you were saying this very profound thing, and it's about turning your passion into a small hustle. And I know so many women, especially after COVID, is now in this area of their life where they have this passion and it seems to become a hustle, right? How are you guys growing your movement, and how would you like other people to get involved in what you are doing?
So one of the things that we have as part of the Women's Collaborative is we have a small business collective. And this is kind of something that's same thing. It's birthed out of the people that we met and what they've kind of shared with us as what their needs are. And there are so many, like you said, there's so many women-owned small businesses or micro businesses that has started up where women just, they create earrings. This is actually earrings from one of the women that we have in our group. And she has been amazing just for us to support her, and other women like her that has, like you said, they have a passion and they're so creative, but now they're turning it into a micro or small business. And so we put a group of women together And we have about 100 members now. And it's basically a space for you to share what you've learned, if you're kind of more seasoned entrepreneur in the area, or if you're new, asking those questions that you may feel like it's a dumb question, or it's something that you should be figure out, or asking for advice. We found that local chamber of commerce, I think most cities have that. They mostly cater for kind of a bigger size business, or even the small business that has a brick and mortar. Micro businesses is kind of where we are. It's our kind of niche, where it's a woman that's making her earrings in her when the kid is asleep, a stay-at-home mom, mompreneur, all these new terms that we are kind of coming up with to support each other, and we are trying to support those women, like network. I hate that word, but creating community around women where they can collaborate. That's why we call the Women's Collaborative, so that you can kind of find someone that is really good at what they do and work together, so you guys can both benefit from collaborating.
There is such power in coming together and collaborating, especially women.
Yes.
And I feel like the time is so right for something like this, because like you were saying, I mean, moms, a lot of moms are at home, which is wonderful if you can be at home with your child. But let's face it, life is so expensive, and it's very, very unlikely these days for moms just to be able to be at home with a husband, bringing in all the money, and you can just relax and raise your child. I mean, that would be ideal, but it's not the reality again. And this is phenomenal. Last but not least, I just want to touch on this one subject that we were touching on this, but just the perception of what a mom is, and what would you say, is a mom supposed to be, and what does a mom look like? And out of the experience and the conversations that you guys are having, how do moms see themselves in 2022?
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to kind of stop having other people define us or who we should be. I think, like I said, I think we are always seen as someone's something, you're someone's XYZ. And even, especially when you become a mom, there's that loss of, there's a loss related to your old self. And I think giving yourself space to grieve that person that you used to be, but also but then also stepping into your new power. I think there's so much that make up a person, not even just a mom, but when you become a mom, you kind of unlock a part of yourself that I don't think I would not be able to kind of be all the things that I am right now before I had my child.
Fabineen, it really seems like you have found your purpose in what you are doing, in being the change, in having a need and going out there and just being brave enough to talk about it and to meet other women. Would you say that this creative side of you, by finding your purpose, does it bring you more joy than just the normal day-to-day lives?
I think so. I think it's one of those things where, like, for a long time, I really liked what I was doing. I was an auditor. I was in corporate America, and I thrived there. I think I learned so much. A lot of the things that I'm implementing now, and the confidence I have, and being able to, build a business, I learned from that, right? So I think it's important for you to make the money that you need to make. So, like, I wouldn't be able to do all the other things I do if I don't have some type of 9 to 5. And I'm privileged enough to be able to do both. But I think we should just all be aware and self-aware enough to understand, like, what are the things that you like doing, and kind of figure out your why. Figure out, like, why you do what you do. And for a long time, I felt like I wasn't fulfilled by only doing my 9 to 5 job. And I kind of worked through that. And I think a lot of it came through motherhood and, like, the transformation that happened there. I kind of had to figure out, like, what are the things that bring me joy, and be able to go after not all of that, but kind of pursue them, as opposed to being, oh, I I can't do this because I'm not a entrepreneur, or I can't do that because I'm living a corporate, whatever. I think figure out like what are those things, and try and do it in small batches, right? Because we all need to make money and we all need to kind of pay our bills. So it's not, I'm not saying quit your job, but I think it can be, and it doesn't have to be either or.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Yeah, there's so much power in finding your purpose and by leaving a legacy, even just for your daughter, like this group and this powerful woman movement, and just the healing that it's bringing. It leaves a legacy for sure. So well done. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was good seeing you.
Well, that's it from me, your host Lorna Greyling. If you want to get in touch with Fabineen and join the Women's Collaborative or start your own collaborative in your area, you can connect with her. Her details will be on the screen right now. Until next week, goodbye.